You know how sometimes you think you've seen everything life could possibly throw at you, until it decides to throw saw into a place you never imagined? That's exactly where I was sitting on a cold metal bench in a death row cell. Concrete walls closing in like they were trying to crush the last bit of hope I had left, just hours before my scheduled execution, and the only soul in this world who still believed in my innocence was a dog. My dog, Titan. And he wasn't just any doe, was the kind of partner most cops only dream of having. A German shepherd with instincts better than half the detectives I'd ever worked with and eyes that seemed to see straight into your soul. And now, out there in the dark, he was carrying the last piece of evidence that could save my life in a vest they didn't know had a hidden pocket. But the guards had spotted him near the prison gates, and one of them had already raised his rifle. I could hear it through the wall intercom, and I pressed my lips to the speaker and whispered like my soul depended on it. Please don't shoot my dog. He's the only one who knows the truth. See, this isn't just a story about me. It's about how justice can go so damn sideways, so fast, you don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. It started with a phone call at 4:18 a.m. Nothing good ever comes from calls that early. The body of Marcus Kingsley had been found in his penthouse. Single gunshot, no forced entry, no signs of struggle. On paper, it should have been a clean investigation. But Marcus wasn't just some guy, was the brother-in-law of Police Commissioner Douglas Crane. And that, well, that changes things. I showed up to the scene with Titan at my side, as always. He sniffed the air, circled the study, stopped twice at the edge of the rug under the desk like something wasn't sitting right. I trusted that dog more than most people. I started logging evidence, noting how the computer had been used nearly an hour after the estimated time of death, which meant someone had been there after Marcus was already gone. I was mid-photo, half-crouched over a partial shoe print when Captain Reardon stormed in. Didn't knock, just barked, "Callahan outside." Now, Reardon was never a fan of mine. Thought I was too loud, too persistent, too black for his version of what a department should look like. We stood in the hallway, the buzz of crime scene radios behind us, and he didn't even pretend to be cordial. "You're off this case." I blinked. "Excuse me, sir? Commissioner requested it. Says you got conflicts of interest with the Tim's business dealings." I'd never met Marcus Kingsley outside a city fundraiser. Never worked any of his files. Didn't even know his birthday. I told Reardon that. He didn't blink. "That's not your concern anymore, detective. You're done here." So I left. I called Titan to my side, and we walked out like ghosts, like we never belonged there in the first place. That night, I went over my field notes, trying to make sense of it. The computer timestamps. The cleaned-up blood spatter. Titan had lingered by a closed drawer. That's when he growled. Not a bark. Not a whimper. A low, rumbling warning like thunder deep underground. Seconds later, my front door exploded inward, and a dozen tactical officers stormed in like I was running a cartel. I barely had time to raise my hands. Titan lunged to protect me, but they were ready. Someone hit him hard with a baton and shoved a muzzle over his face like he was some rabid stray. They slammed me against my own wall so hard my lips split open. Reardon himself leaned in while the cuffs clicked shut and hissed in my ear, "You forgot your place." And just like that, everything I'd worked for was gone. They said the murder weapon was my Sayre VYC pistol, which was missing. Said my DNA was under Kingsley's fingernails, though I'd never even touched him. Claimed I'd sent him angry text messages about a racial slur. He supposedly made texts I'd never seen. They even had grainy surveillance footage of someone in a hoodie entering his building around 10:30 p.m. Problem was, I was home, alone, watching reruns of Jeopardy with Titan snoring at my feet. Not exactly a watertight alibi. And then they took Titan. Said he'd been aggressive. Said he'd need to be processed. I knew what that meant. They were going to put him down. He was just a dog to them. But not to Jason Morris. Jason worked at animal control. He'd seen plenty of angry dogs in his day, but something about Titan struck him differently. Said Titan looked at him like he understood every word being said. And when he went to clean the K9 vest, he found the USB. Tucked into a secret compartment, it was encrypted. Jason could have handed it over. Could have played it safe. But something about the speed of the kill order, the names attached to it didn't sit right. So instead, he faked the death report, sedated Titan with a pill hidden in sausage, and took him home. That one decision, that crazy, gut punch choice, may have saved both our lives. Because that USB contained months of notes I'd been keeping in property seizures, foreclosures, code violations, all pointing to a scheme targeting black homeowners and pushing them out. Names kept popping up: Kingsley, Reardon, Judge Terrence Wall, even Commissioner Crane. They were laundering stolen neighborhoods into luxury developments. Thing was, I wasn't the only one they'd silenced. Lucia, a rookie admin assistant at the precinct, overheard Reardon on a call saying if the dog isn't found, the whole operation falls apart. She slipped copies of EVY Denke logs to Marcus Diaz's old partner, who'd been reassigned to cybercrimes after backing me one too many times. Then came the bombshell. An old neighbor of mine, Miss Loretta, God bless her stubborn soul, said she saw two plainclothes men enter my home before the search warrant was filed. She even snapped photos. That's when everything changed. Jason, Marcus, Lucia, Miss Loretta, these people had no reason to risk their lives for me. But they did. Because sometimes the only thing that cuts through power is truth spoken loud enough by enough people who just refuse to sit down and shut up. We traced the operation back to something called the Driftwood Initiative, essentially a land grab masked as revitalization. But that wasn't the kicker. The kicker was buried in a forgotten memo Titan had repeatedly pawed at. One name stood out: me. Not just my name, my birth record. Turns out I wasn't just a threat because I was a good detective. I was blood. Crane wasn't just the commissioner. He was my father. And he'd spent his whole career erasing that truth. It explained the overkill, the rage, the fear. He didn't want the world to know he had a black daughter, especially not one who'd sniffed out his dirty empire. The final piece came from Titan himself. During one of our last moves before the trial, he led Jason to a remote hunting cabin owned by Reardon. Hidden beneath the floorboards was my gun registered in my name, wiped clean but with residue that matched Kingsley's wound in a notebook. Reardon's, detailing exactly how they'd framed me. The jury never heard any of that. The judge refused to allow it. And the moment the guilty verdict landed, they rushed my sentencing like the truth might catch up before the needle did. But Titan wasn't done. The night of the execution, he slipped past prison gates. How? I still don't fully understand. Maybe someone let him in. Maybe he's just smarter than all of us combined. Jason delivered the final EVY Denke packet to a federal judge. Lucia contacted an FBI agent she'd met during a training event. Miss Loretta went on live TV with her photos. Marcus hacked the precinct servers and released the real security footage. Reardon, not me, entering Kingsley's building that night. And just 23 seconds before the injection was set to start, the stay came in. Titan was there, face pressed against the glass as they wheeled me out. I cried for the first time in weeks. And then I smiled. Because we weren't just surviving anymore. We were winning. Now, I'm out. Officially cleared. Fully reinstated, though I didn't go back to homicide. I started something NAY unit focused solely on wrongful VY tie-ins and systemic bias. Titan's my partner, still by my side every day. People stop us on the street. Kids take pictures with him. Folks cry when they shake my hand and whisper, "I'm glad you made it." But I didn't make it alone. Justice didn't ride in on a white horse. It came on 4 legs, in a storm, led by a dog who never gave up on me. And if you're wondering what happened to Crane, let's just say, family secrets don't stay buried when the truth digs deep enough. So now I ask you, do you think something like this could really happen in our world today? Or is this just a nightmare we tell to scare each other into VY violence? Comment below. Do you think the system can ever truly be fair? Hit that like button if you believe truth always finds a way through the darkness, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories that challenge power, celebrate resilience, and remind us all that sometimes justice wears fur and barks.